Okay guys, just gonna do a quick walk around. First impressions, 2023 Stabicraft 2250 Ultra Center Cab Superfish. So apparently they don't make the Superfish anymore, but that includes a couple extras, the paint job. It's got a bait station, live well. You can see the railings are powder coated. Just a couple things to point out. I ended up getting the Minn Kota. Used it once so far and it worked excellent out on the ocean. Probably had, I don't know, 4 or 5 knots of current, a little bit of wind, had no problem holding. We got the Phantom Garmin up top. Got some rigid light pods, one on each corner with the horn. Used the anchor the other day, plow anchor, works great. Self-deployed, came in all by itself, angled it self correctly and stowed. There's the drain hole for the anchor. Nav lights on the side. Again, the rigid spotlights up top. We got a couple extra antennas up on top. We got the one Garmin that you can see there. We got the radio antenna, nav lights, and then you can't see it in the picture, but just behind that antenna, there's another one for the Yamaha autopilot system. This is a full DES Hellmaster EX level 2. So the only thing it's missing is a joystick control, which would have been basically what the Minn Kota does. It's supposed to be able to spot lock. Unfortunately, due to COVID and all the other BS that's been going on, Garmin wasn't going to be able to get that for over a year, so we ended up going with the Minn Kota. Mixed reviews on it, only time will tell, but so far it's working good. I've got this boat on a lift, as you can see here. Just has a control system, American boat lifts. Inside there you can ultimately raise it, lower it. It goes up and down based on air pressure, pretty low air pressure. If something happens and there's a failure in either one of the tanks or the lines, it still comes down level. That's why I still keep bumpers on each side of it and tie it off every time I store it. If for some reason there's a failure and it goes back in the water, the boat doesn't float away. It's been up and down, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. It's been working great so far. I needed a couple of adjustments by the company once the boat first got here. I actually purchased this lift almost a year ago because that's when the boat was supposed to be delivered. But due to delays for various reasons, here we are a year later and I've got the boat. So the company that I've been working with the lift was great. A year later, Cole called them, said, hey, the boat will be here tomorrow. They said, no problem, we'll come out and adjust everything in 2 days. So pretty impressive. Just give them a plug because I'm happy with their work so far. There you go. I think with this lift, it'll pay for itself as long as it lasts and works well for 5 years. It'll be the same cost as bottom painting, having a diver to keep it in the water. Back end here, we've got a step, Yamaha 300 DES. You can see that steering ram there. That's the electric steering, comes standard with the DES motor. So it's kind of nice. It's pretty clean. Just has one wire loom that goes into the boat and everything else is super clean. Obviously it's a new Yamaha, so a couple extra features with the way the exhaust port is designed for backing. It's got an auto trim feature, which I haven't really been using. I manually trim, but as you gain speed, it will automatically trim the motor up and down depending on what the system thinks it needs. It has an auto stop, so when I trim it up, it doesn't come up and bash into the back of that bait station. Works pretty good. All right, we'll jump up top and keep on going. All right, here we are inside the boat. There's a lot of reviews out there, or I should say first impressions on the outside of the boats, but I had a pretty hard time finding this specific model, which is the Superfish. Came with the floor decks, which are amazing. Any boat you get, I'd recommend getting these. Standing on your feet all day gets tiring as it is, and those floors really help out, in addition to just looking good in general. So again, just real quick Superfish options. It's got the bait station, the live well. Couldn't find how big that live well was for the life of me, so I did the old 5-gallon bucket test, and it's roughly between 16 and 18 gallons. Got some tuna tubes there. That was a couple of the most confusing things when buying this boat, was trying to understand how everything was rigged and wired. I even called Staby in New Zealand, long distance, and asked them a bunch of questions, and they weren't really able to answer too clearly. I don't know if it was just they didn't understand what I was asking, but I was trying to understand the pickups, because if you got one little bitty pickup that supplies your washdown, your live well, your tuna tubes, you're gonna have problems obviously maintaining pressure. So I was trying to understand how the pickups worked, and really until the boat got here I didn't know, because I couldn't see it in person. So there's actually a pickup down below that has 2 separate pickups inside of it, from what I can tell. It's about 4 inches wide and 9 inches long, and it faces forward, the scoop does. So when you're driving it, ram airs water through all the systems for you to be able to use. I gotta put some labels on here. That's another weird thing. They don't label these on-off valves, but you got the live well, tuna tube 2, tuna tube 1. So the 2 separate pickups was pretty outstanding, because that kind of helped quite a bit in what I was wondering. So as you can see down here, Y Marina is where I bought this boat. Super happy with the overall product there that they delivered. Everybody was very helpful. Their electronics gentleman that wired the boat, Tom, crushed it. This thing is clean. You'll see some different wire jobs back here, and it just looks like a train wreck, but once we get in here you'll see that everything's very clean, labeled. So anyways, we got a input here, so this is where the water goes in the live well. Exits here. Water ends up usually hanging out in there, because the actual drain tube is, I don't know, probably 3 to 4 inches higher than that, maybe 2 inches. Well, obviously it's right about here, because it ends up draining all the way out, but you can see water staying in the line. That's your fuel tank there, pickup. So there's 2 actual pickups that come off of that in case you want twins. So obviously we just got one being used, the other one is capped and turned off. This here is kind of like a manifold, so all the water comes into these manifolds. Are 3 separate on and off valves, and you can turn them on or off. So if you're not using the system when you're driving, it doesn't actually put water through the system. So as water fills up into the bait station here, it's kind of got this little curve in there. I'm assuming that's so the water doesn't drain out of the intake at all. And then it's got the drain down below. Again, about 15 gallons. Pretty small, about the smallest you're gonna ever be able to use here in Southern California. So I had done quite a bit of asking, calling Stabicraft, asking for a custom mod where instead of getting these tuna tubes, where I don't really plan on using all that space just to make a big box with some corners on it for a live well, but they weren't interested in doing that. Apparently they just got too much business to make it worth their while. So it is what it is. We'll see. I haven't put any live bait in there yet, but I figure I could probably fit a half a scoop, and I very rarely do overnighters. So if it lives for the day, I'll be happy. Worst case scenario, I can buy an auxiliary one, put it on this side, maybe tee into that tuna tube pump and run it that way. So there's actually 2 separate pumps, like I was saying. You've got, which I'll show you in just a minute, you've got a tuna tube pump that runs these 2, and it's a huge pump with about a 2-inch intake. And then you've just got a live well pump that's probably like an inch and a half. The live well pump pumps water into here, and it's kind of weird how it works. I wish there would have been a 3rd intake, but they tee off right off the exit port, and then they supply this pump in here which is the washdown pump. So your washdown is supplied by the live well first. Secondarily, it's this on-demand pump that pumps from the live well line that is going to the live well into here with a Y, which I'll show you now. All right. So, bear with me here. So here's the manifold. Tuna tube 1, tuna tube 2 right there. Live well all the way in the back. Fuel water separator, you can see there, this is where that tuna tube Y's off for each tuna tube. Not too sure what that gizmo is there. I'm assuming it's some sort of, I don't know, EPA thing for the motor. Looks like it's a vent tube, that's what it is, from the gas tank. Down there, comes off of there. Intakes are there. We got the wiring harness coming in here from the back. Back here you got, let's see, on this side we have the live view coming in, as well as the trim tabs. And then I'm going to show you back here, the 2250s have basically a big hole. And in that hole is where they run everything. So that orange pump down on the bottom there, that one is a, obviously you can see SureFlow. What is that, 1250? So that's your bilge pump. So auto bilge pump comes on when it fills up, goes off when it's done. You've got a master on-off valve. That is the bait well, primary bait well pump. And you can see how, I don't know if you can see it, see how there's two tubes, one there and one there. Two outputs coming off of that. So one of those outputs goes to the bait tank. The other output goes to the washdown. So that's the only thing there that's just a little bit interesting, because ultimately you're supplying two different things with one low GPM pump, and you can definitely see a difference in flow if both of them are on. So that's the live well. Back on the back here, that big boy is for the tuna tubes. So that is at least good, seeing that there's two separate pumps for all those systems. That's what I was initially worried about and couldn't quite get answered, and was a little bit confused on. You got a master on-off valve for that one. So basically you can see right there, you got the two intakes. You got one intake and two intakes coming off that through hull underneath the boat. Pretty awesome. So it works well. So again, like I said, I could always basically grab that line and feed it into another live well if I need to, but we'll see how it works out. Bolts coming through from the engine. Kind of one last look here. I actually haven't even done this before to see what's back there. Looks like we got a ground or two, tuna pump, bilge pump, on-off valves. The only thing that I'm seeing is going to be kind of a real issue here. If you can see here, there's no guard. I probably should make one, but when you're washing down the boat and you got sardines flopping all over the place, they're going to go down into this hole and they're going to live there until they start smelling, and then I'm going to have to come in here and somehow try to fish them out. It's pretty tight in there, and it's pretty tight underneath here, so I don't even know what kind of strainer that bilge pump has on it. I'm sure it doesn't have any sort of macerating capability, but that might be kind of neat. Anyways, we'll see how that goes. Might have to build some screens or something just to try to filter the large stuff from getting down in there, but so far it's worked great. I'm going to crawl back out of here, and then I'll give you a couple last looks and we'll keep on going. Real quick there, so those plates, from my understanding, if you're going to get a through hull transducer, that's where they would drill the holes and access them. I would highly recommend through hulls if you can afford them. I know it seems dumb with the grand scheme of things with a boat as expensive as these ones, but there's two, one on each side. But you start getting down to the nitty gritty and you just start trying to save whatever you can. The transducers that are off the back of the boat, they work good, you know, at 5 knots, maybe 8 knots or less. But once you start going too quick, they just don't work well. And a through hull would probably work at like 25 miles an hour. You could be mapping the bottom of the ocean. So, but they're about 3 times as much money. So we're just kind of walking around here. We got the pull-out drawer, has a stop, which is good. I've just got all my hooks, sinkers, kind of rigging equipment here. Rags, leader line, weights in the back. So this fits great. I had a 26-foot Grady White before this, and I thought I had a lot of storage on that boat, but I've been keeping all the stuff that I had in that boat in the corner of the garage because I sold that one, immediately ordered this one. 2 years later, I got it. And I put everything I had on that boat in this boat, and I have actually more storage in this boat, and it's a 22.5-foot boat. So that's pretty impressive. This is a CUDA little bait station holder. I actually saw that, I think it's called Forage and Fish. The guy's got a YouTube channel with a banana yellow 2750. He's been crushing it out in Florida. Works great. Great recommendation on his part. I love it. Superfish, they come with these extra rod holders. They go vertical. So you've got 6 in total, 3 on each side, 4 in the back. And I don't know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 up top. Plenty of rod space. Just again, some of the things that I never got to see because nobody would film, but again, these gunnels do have wiring in the top of them. The port side doesn't have that much. This is the wiring for the electric hooks, which I have them pre-rigged for an electric hook. Got some extra speakers cut into there. Sorry, not electric hook, but electric fishing rod. And then on this side, same thing, 1 to each side, 12 volt, pre-wired. But you can see there that wiring bundle. So the starboard gunnel has a ton of wiring. And there's not a whole lot of space. So everything's actually really neat, even though it looks like it's all thrown in there. There's just a lot of stuff right in that corner. So when you're putting stuff in here or you're running anything in this area, you just got to really watch out because it all ends up back here where all the important wiring is. You got 1 plug for a battery tender, 2nd plug for the Minn Kota system. They're completely separate. 2 circuit breakers for the electric reels, master battery switch, Maxwell drum winch switch. So the only bad thing about this system is you can't kind of open this without bringing this out. But when we're out on the water, I'm not opening this really ever. So in here, I mean, look at this wiring. It's just, oh, it's nuts how good it is. Clean charging system, AGM. Everything's labeled. All the little end points of the connections have little labels on them going all the way up to the helm. So yeah, pretty amazing. Super lucky to have got the right people to build this boat, because once it's done, if you went with the wrong people, it's kind of screwed for life. All right, here we are again. So here's the wiring. Look at that. That's clean right there. That's Y Marina. I've had a couple different boats, number of different cars, had a lot of different wiring work done. You'll see later on when we get behind the dash. It's pretty amazing to get a boat and it actually looks great, works great. The wiring is clean the way that you would expect it to be. So you can troubleshoot stuff if anything were to happen in the future. So yeah, shout out to Y Marina, great job. Again, just want to show you the back side of the electronics here in the boat. Super clean. Everything's labeled, protected. I mean, even the wires themselves end to end are tagged I'm sure you guys understand how important wiring is on any piece of equipment. I can tell you I've had a lot of different experiences with vendors, manufacturers for rewires of old boats, new boats, vehicles, and I can say with 100% certainty that Tom over at Y Marina has done the best wiring job I have ever seen, and it's amazing to be able to get a brand new boat that you've literally never seen in person delivered to your house, and everything works and looks as good as this looks. Kudos to the team at Y Marina. Okay, moving up front, again, Superfish, you get paint up to the rails there. There was a weird kind of issue that had happened. They quit making the Superfish after I had ordered my boat, and somehow there was a little bit of a communication issue. Get my hat back on here. Oh, let me show you this. So I've got this is a kind of a neat tackle box, and it basically fits perfectly right there, and that's where I got all my spare baits, since it doesn't all go in that drawer. So that works good, sits there neatly tucked away. And then we just got the good old West Marine trash can bucket. Rod holder, 3 aside. They're all angled differently, straight out, sideways, back. Again, you got the step there. This is removable, so when you're walking in and out of the boat, you just pull that off, and it works real well. Let's see, I'm not sure how this will work, but so you get a good look at the back. So you got the real-time 3D view down on this side, and on the other side you have the exit ports for the live well, the bilge, and the other Garmin transducer. Nice and clean in the back here. I'm not a huge fan of the live well exit. The water exits here, the drain. Obviously the water comes out of these and it just splashes down there, goes all over there, all over the motor, basically non-stop the entire day. Just salt water is just washing that whole area. Ran it all day long, day before yesterday when I was out. Didn't get any leakage through there, so that was huge. I haven't even popped that hatch and made sure the seal was, kind of greased right, but no leakage at all, so that's good. But I definitely make sure I wash this whole area out really well at the end of the day. Long-term effects of that probably aren't going to be the greatest. Potentially I could always drill a hole here, put an output for a hose line, stick it down there somewhere just so it's not blasting this whole area. Like I said, I don't see myself ever using these, but they're there if I need them. So we'll see what we do there. Little leader station here, so this pops off. You can fit 2 Seaguard leader line drums in there. They come out of here. I'm sure you guys have all seen those. You got a little weight area for your weight. Drink holder. This side is exactly the same. Got some speakers, extra speakers, like I said, put in. And again, all that wiring, just so you're familiar with how it works here. Let's see. It basically goes down underneath here. So it goes behind this piece, down through this piece, and ends up over here, and then goes back up on the other side. And you can actually see it right there. So it's all right there. Not a whole lot of room, that's for sure. I haven't even messed with all that, but seems like it's pretty well tucked away. But again, when you're spraying stuff down, you just got to really kind of watch this area. I know it's all meant to be hosed down and shouldn't have any issues, but anytime there's live wires like that, I try to really watch out. So again, a couple weird issues happened like halfway through the build. Stabicraft was kind of like, oh, we don't make the Superfish, and they sent me a build sheet for basically the wrong boat. Talked to the fellows in Y Marina. Mike over there, I think he's one of the sales managers, sorted out right away and got me basically everything that was on the original build. Stabby agreed to build another Superfish. I don't really know how all the details of that work, but at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. Got the boat I wanted and it was outstanding. I think rather than raising the prices dramatically, Stabicraft probably just eliminated the Superfish because that was the highest spec boat that they would sell. And then now all that stuff that it came with are options. So kind of like a little way of doing that, I guess, is what it is. These are great lights, super bright. I'll try to insert some pictures. I don't do a ton of stuff at night, so 4 spotlights was good for me. The 2 in the back are real bright as well. So again, we got the Minn Kota. Used it one day so far, probably 3 different times throughout the day. On top of a fishing spot that I was at, sitting on top of a rock, just sat there, and it was great. Went over to a beach, and actually it was a nice calm day, so I wanted to back the back of the boat up to the beach with the anchor offshore. And put the step down and walk onto the beach, and but I didn't want to get too close because of the transducers, obviously. So I put this thing down, motored backwards, let the anchor out to the right length, and it was great. When I was ready to come leave the area, I had to bring the main motor down, just turn this thing on, motored back out, and pulled in the anchor. So far I'm impressed. I mean, obviously it's another thing to fail. It's another piece of different equipment. I've got 3 batteries attached to this, but for now it's working. In the future, I'd probably still like to get the joystick. I was excited to see how that was going to work out, but Garmin is having, sorry, Yamaha. I said Garmin earlier. Yamaha is having issues. Everybody's having issues, but anyways, love to get the joystick. So in there is the drum winch. Worked real well. Only used it that one day. I've heard some issues with power draw. So far haven't seen any. Just keep it real clean. Obviously salt water is horrible, so I wash everything down really well at the end of every day. The only interesting thing about this compartment is it's got that exit that I pointed out earlier, where the drain hole is. So when this boat is in the water, that drain hole is basically below the water line. So there's always about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches of water in that compartment. Doesn't matter for me because the boat stays out of the water. If your boat lived in the water, it might be a little bit of an issue. So this hatch here arrived leaking, so Y Marina had to fix it. There still is a little nut that's leaking on it, but I'm just going to throw some silicone around it, and hopefully that fixes it whenever it rains or I wash the boat. I've got a little actually bucket down in there to catch the water. It's not a lot, but it drips down in there. So it came from the factory that way. I don't know what the deal is with Staby. There was a couple different nuts missing on the backside where it looked like the screws were either shaved off or there wasn't enough teeth for them to bite. But seems like a pretty straightforward thing to do, putting a hatch in, but didn't work out. I guess the wiper motors were delivered from Staby backwards. Y Marina had to switch those around and get them all tuned up. So basically these boats arrive, your dealer goes through the boat for you, make sure everything's working right, and like anything, there's going to be some issues from the actual manufacturer, and they just go through and fix them all. So that's what Y Marina did, and when I got the boat here, they'd put like 9 hours on it doing all the sea trials, so it was ultimately plug and play, which was great. There was just one little circuit breaker that's behind the switch for the bilge pump here. Bilge pump was kind of intermittent. I popped this off, and the circuit breaker female end on the back that clips in where the circuit breaker goes into, one of them was kind of like intermittently off, so I just pushed that in, and no issues from there. So if that's the only issue you're gonna have, you're in heaven, because yeah, that was great. You get a boat, everything works as advertised. I can't complain. So we got the radio here, Sorry, we got the Fusion stereo here. We got the VHF radio here. Mic's mounted up here, out of your way when you're driving, which is nice. You know, you're just sitting here like this, nothing's in your way. Got the touchscreen. My old boat didn't have a touchscreen. It still had a Garmin, but it was the one with the buttons and the dial on the side knob. Still not a huge fan of that touchscreen when you're driving. It's like it takes you a minute to figure out, you know, what you're pressing and if you miss. So I'm sure I'll get used to it. Digital gauge for the Yamaha system. This is where my phone basically magnets onto. Got a little cubby here that'll actually charge your phone as well. Trim tabs. So Stabi wires their trim tabs a little bit differently than what I'm used to, at least here on the West Coast or the boats that I've had. So bow down or bow up on the starboard side is not linked to the starboard trim tab. If you press this one up or down, the port trim tab moves and vice versa. So what they're saying is, or the way they wire, which makes sense, I'm just used to it being rigged to the actual starboard trim tab, but if you're looking out and the boat looks like this and the left side's basically, or right side is down and you need the left side to come down, you just go to the left trim tab, press down, and it will level out. So as you're looking at the boat, if you're driving along and it looks like this, you need the left or port bow down. So you grab the left switch, press forward, and it bows down because it's actually manipulating the starboard trim tab down, pushing that right side of the boat up. Kind of didn't get used to it yet. I'm sure I will. The logic of that makes sense in my mind. So I think once I start thinking about it that way, it won't be an issue. Got 6 speakers in the boat, 2 up front, 2 midship, 2 in the back. I got 2 lights. Had an extra one installed back here. Saw another guy on YouTube do that. I like the idea of it. Don't do a lot of stuff at night, but it's definitely nice to have light inside the cabin. Got an additional 9-inch Garmin back here, which works really well. It's all plug and play, touchscreen. Separate from the one up front, so you can be looking at a separate transducer than the one up front, and it works really great because when you're fishing back here, you fish 4 guys back here, no problem. I'm up front driving the boat, the boys are back here doing their thing. They can just glance up and check the fish finder. The Garmin systems, in my opinion, are amazing. They're used all over the world: aviation, navigation, marine. They're great. I've never had any issues with anything Garmin personally, and I'm extremely happy with it. The live view down is amazing. I mean, when you're sitting on a rock pile with that Minn Kota, you can actually see all the fish. And I'll do some videos coming up here where I'll go out and just kind of videotape what you get to see. But it's amazing because you can see where the fish are, what depth they are in the water column. You tell the boys, say they're at 80 feet, lines start going down. You're watching the lines go down in the screen, and you can tell them, okay, 3, 2, 1, hold there. And boom, they just get whacked. So it's pretty amazing. Light switch panel for starboard, port, forward, left and right. So again, I got the Yamaha autopilot system here. Used it on the trip the other day. Worked great. Didn't have any issues. From what I understand, the boat doctor took quite a bit of time to dial that in because it was a little bit interesting to get to talk to everything. But whatever he did worked amazingly well because you just hit navigate to track point and you're rolling. I'll do some more videos specifically on each system, but again, DES throttle, DES steering, DES autopilot. I left a hole here for the joystick. I would like to get the joystick. It's not a pain to put that Minn Kota down, but it'd be pretty nice to roll up on a kelp batty, hit spot lock, and just hang out. Again, that was the original plan for this build, but due to issues with Yamaha stuff, this steering wheel took like a year to get, like literally. Like when the boat arrived, they still didn't have one from Yamaha, and they had to beg, borrow, and steal from another dealer to get it. Part of the DES, you can do 4 turns lock to lock or 6. Maneuvering in this waterway that the boat is in, kind of tight quarters getting it into the slip, so I'd rather have 4 lock to lock. So unfortunately you can't change that. The dealer has to change it. So when it goes in for the first service, I'll have them change that to 4 from 6. So I ended up putting this knob on just because you're literally having to yank that wheel around to get the boat into the spot. Tons of storage in the front, storage in the sides, storage in the middle, storage on top. It's for the Minn Kota. It's velcroed in the back here. This is the amp. Got another little charging station here, magnet for putting your phone on it. That is duplicated on the other side. Got these cooler seats. They're actually really comfortable, like where your back lays on here when you're driving, and the seat itself, super comfy. If you flip them around when you're out and about, that's why that one's kind of facing the other way. It'll be good for sitting and facing aft. When I go out fishing, I just pull this whole aft isinglass off for the day, and this whole back area is open, and it works out real good. More storage there. You got storage down here with a drain to the bottom of the boat. Obviously there's a plug in there. I got my life vest in there, plus the spare anchor. In the front there, you've got quite a bit of storage. It goes pretty far up into there. So I've got a little basket, just got some clothes in it. In front of that, I've got one of these plastic totes that has a barbecue in it. Kind of got the cooking set up there. Toilet is the old bucket there. Whenever I'm cooking, I put out that extra little cutting board, the barbecue, and I just kind of set up a cooking station. These little totes I just leave empty, so when we go out, my buddies all have places to just throw their backpacks or gear or whatever. You can actually put this section down. I'm sure you've seen that before, so I'm not going to do it, but it extends to right about here. So you can sleep in there. It won't be, at least for me, super comfortable, but it's manageable at the very least. A couple cup holders in the front. Just a good look at everything we got here. Wipers on the left. They got 2 speeds, deck wash, tuna tube, bait tank, bilge pump. It's got an auto and an on. You got washers, so there's actually washer fluid, underwater lights. That's one of the things. So this thing's got an underwater light, and it's pretty awesome. If you flip that switch rapidly a couple different times, you can change the color of the underwater lights. So it's got cockpit lights, anchor light, nav lights, and light. It also has some blue soft tone lighting up underneath here. You see the whites there? That really light this whole walkway up, and it looks great. These lights back here are white. From what I've flipped them a number of different times, it kind of looks like there's potentially a different shade here. Maybe it's just some are spot and some are flood, but I fully expected those to change to blue if you wanted them. And unless I'm doing something wrong, I still got to play with them a little bit more. I only played with them one night. I don't believe they changed to blue, and that's super annoying because the white ones are just so bright that you'd rather almost have a headlamp on. My old Grady White, I had lights just like that, and you flip the switch twice and they were soft blue, and they were perfect for working the back of the boat, not blowing your eyes out. So it's a little bit weird that they don't make that a standard option, in my opinion. Well, let's see here. I leave this thing plugged in. It's out of the water. Got a little mount there for the old GoPro. I'm gonna try to get some footage for everybody out fishing this year. That's my goal. Friends, family. Just want to have a good time. Yeah, so that's all I got.